Okay, so let's look at how to update data. I mean, how to update the different data types that we have in R. It's very important. Very, very important. We have vectors, lists, data frame, matrix, and arrays. So these data types let's say in ordinary sense are data that is seated somewhere, and with some reason you have to update it. In fact, not with some reason, for every data that you have, it cannot just be fixed. You have to update the data. For instance, if this is staff list, some go on retirement. I need to update the new you see that the so it's a vector of all this number that I mean the how count it. So this is 26, 27. Is that I need to add additional number. I need to add what is it? Data to. Let's assume that that vector is a vector, say the weight of some. One is the first position. So it will print, so that's what I'm saying. 30 of them. So if I do 30, to print the last number. The last number should be 739. If one. There is, so to be able to do that, I will just bring out the vector name, and then I'll bring out the whatever data that I wanted to add. The position, and then indicate those positions that I want to add. And then I will just assign that particular data value to it. So it will go and occupy that position. At the moment, position 31 is empty. So what I'm going to do is I will just create, let's say, a data point 678, and then it will go and occupy position 31. So if I do that, then it means that I have updated the records which is found under vec_num. So now, if I now print that, if I now print it, you see that I'll now be having the new one that I added, the new data point that I added, which is 678, the 678, which is now here. This is how we can update it. You can add it. So I came here, position 32 is also empty. Then I just decided to add it. Now, you can also add in a chunk. Maybe you are having a staff list of 32, like I have at the moment. There are 32 of them. If I print here, you see that there are 32 of them. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So, but I want to have additional 8 data points have been brought to you. So you need to update your records. You need to add that particular data points. How do you? So you create the positions which are empty, and then you simply run, you simply add that data to it. To be able to do that, this is the vector, and then we know that from position 31 to 40 are empty. So if we just run only this without anything, you will see that it will indicate NA, not available. So what do? We create a vector, and then we simply assign the vector to it. Once these positions are empty, when we assign the vector to it, it will come and occupy those positions, and that's it. So that is exactly what we are doing here. And so if I run this, and then I now decide to print the vector again, this is the same thing. I always want to just highlight and then run. It's the same thing. You see that now we are now having 40 instead of the 32 we have. We have updated it with 8 new records. So this is how we can add. There are also instances you may just want to add. It's the same thing here that we could have done quite earlier. And then another one too is also here. You may be thinking that, or you may want to update your records, but not in a sequential order or at a specific positions. Let's say the data points like position 1 all the way to 3. You want to replace them with a different data. So maybe those staff have gone on transfer or they are on retirement, and the new ones have come, so you need to replace it. So what do? We simply declare those positions. We indicate the positions, which is position 1 to 3. We want to replace them with this record, and then I will just run that. So here, what we are actually doing in essence, let me put here, we are actually doing replacement. We are doing replacement. So we just replace these particular positions here. So if we run that, so these three values we have created, they will go and occupy position 1, position 2, position 3, and that's it. And then when we come here, it's the same way. We can also make sure that we have position 3, 7, and then 9. In this case, the positions are not following each other. So once the positions are not following each other on the entire, so we are going into this particular vector, and then you want to select some few positions and then replace them with 1, 2, and 3. So we want to replace the number which is occupying the 3rd place, the 7th place, and then the 10th place. When we do that and we run it, it will simply just go and then occupy. And then so now if I print the vector again, if I come to print the vector again, vector underscore where am I? It appears I have. Yeah. So if I come to print the vector again, you will notice that those particular changes have been effected. And that's what I was talking about. Let me see. So let me come here. So I have vector underscore num, which is here. So let me print it, and you see that we have updated those places. Number 3 is now occupied by number 1 is now occupied by something, number 2 is occupied by something, then in that order. So this is how, so this is number 3 here. Number 3 here is occupied by 1. Number 7 is occupied by 2. And number 10 is occupied by 3, which is here. And so we have replaced them. So we can update the data from any place, provided you know how to be able to identify the positions and give the index numbers of those positions. Then you use this strategy to update it. Now around here too, it's the same thing, that we can update it. But somebody may want to know, what about if you want to update and then those numbers will begin? So now I have updated the vector from 41 to 43 with 900, 800, and then 700. But I want this 900, 800, and 700 to begin, to be my first data points. So if I do like this, if I print it, you will see that the vector has been updated, but the 900, 800, and 700 are all at the last part. But I want them to begin. How do I do that? You just create a new variable, which is vector underscore 1. Come and use the same vector here, the same vector which I was having, that I have updated now. And then now bring the 41 to 43 as your first, comma, and then 1 to 40. So you have changed the positions. And then when you run it, and then you now print vector underscore, the new one, then you notice that the 900, 800, 700 are now beginning, unlike here when they were last. So this is how to be able to update it. It's quite simple. The same strategy I adopted here. And then, of course, the same explanation that I just provided on top, which is also here. Now, we can also create a vector of characters. Let's say I have a vector here, which is made of some characters. Let me print the characters. Let me actually print it again. It appears, yeah. I'll print the characters A, B, C, D up to J. So now, if I want to update the records, maybe I want to, the positions, the records are from 1 to 10, but 11 to 15 are empty. Let me run it and you see. So they are empty, not available. So to update it, you use the same strategy on top there. I just have my C, then I just create those, remember, it's a vector of characters. So you can only update it with characters, not with numbers. So I use the same strategy, create the empty spaces, and come and use a vector to go and occupy those spaces. And if I run here, it will simply go and occupy the spaces from 11 to 15. Remember, these numbers, I keep saying that they are indexes, not the real numbers. So it represents the number that occupied the 11th position. But in this case, 11th position is vacant, 12 vacant, 13 vacant, 14 vacant, and 15 vacant. So this one here, first one will go and occupy 11. This one will occupy 12. This one will occupy 13. This one will occupy 14. And this will occupy 15. This is how we are able to update it. And of course, now if I come, you will see that instead of ending at J, you see that we have updated it with the new record. If you also want to update it with the new record and this one will start, then you simply come here and then alterate. Just do something we call reverse. I know how to be able to reverse. Use the same indexes, and then you are able to reverse it. And then that's basically all that we need to know here. How do we update information in the data frame? Several ways of doing that. Now, we can add a column. We can remove a column. We can add a row. We can remove a row. We can add a set of columns. We can add a set of rows, and we can also remove them accordingly. So here, let's assume that I have a data frame I've already created, which is GF_1. And then when I do that, by that time, I had not done this kind of naming. So pardon me, now that we have these naming conventions which are there. So maybe I should run the GF. I don't know why I created the GF data frame, GF1 and GF2. I need to go and run that part. I just want to make sure that I start from somewhere. Well, yeah, the GF1 is here. And then the GF2 is also here. All right. So now let me go down, down, down. When I do that, if I come to the updating, the running, so I'm done with this. So when I come, I am trying to look at how to update a data frame. So when I come here, I have a data frame like this. So look at how the data frame looks like. It's D3, D2, and D1. So that is my data frame. So when I come here, I can simply select, or I can simply the network is misbehaving, so it makes Martin cut and back, cut and back. It's really giving me a headache. All right, so this is where we were. So we're looking at how to be able to subset a data frame. And I'm saying, how to update a data frame. You can add a column to it by using this strategy, which is here. So if I have a data frame and I bring a dollar sign, it automatically suggests the data frames that were there. And then if you want to add another one, then here we didn't have this data frame G11. So to be able to add another column called G11, you just do this, and then you come and run this particular line. So it will create a new column called G11, which will be added. Another way is to make sure that when you have your data frame, like I have here, then can assign the root. So what the column 5? So you simply write 5 and the variable 5, and then it will be created. You run it. Now you can also add one data frame to another, or you can add a section of one data to a section of another data frame, or you can add a section of one data frame to the entirety of another data frame. It's just if you just know how to do it, it's quite simple. So let me create this data frame called DF3. So if I come and run DF, you see that 3 columns there. Column 1, 2. I want to now I want to add data frame underscore 1 and then the data frame 3. Then this is what we use. We use cbind, and then when we run it, we are able to make sure that and then I pack the variable into something called my DF. So if I print it, you see that now I've joined the 2 data sets by columns, column bind. So all of them are now together. The first one, which was ending at 5, and then this one, the 3 data sets have also come to add. That's quite simple. What about if I want to add only only the first 2 columns of data frame 3 and data frame DF1? This is how we are able to do it. You simply have this one standing. Then you have the second data frame where you want to extract the 2 columns. So here, when you bring this your square bracket, it means you are actually separating rows and column by this comma. So anything to the column side, when you put 1:2, we are saying that I am picking column 1 and column 2, and then I am adding it to this particular data frame called DF_1, and then I'll pack the whole thing to this variable. So if I run that, then that works properly. So you can print this and see. So look at the difference. The difference is the first one we added everything, so this column was there. The next one we added only the first 2 columns, so it ignored the 3rd column, and that's why we now have our new data frame, which is looking this way. All right. Now we can repeat the same thing here by also selecting some columns in the first data frame and selecting some columns in the other data frame, and then bind them together using the cbind function and pack all of them to this variable. When we run that, and then we come to print this variable, then we can see that we have updated our data frame, and look at how it looks like. Quite beautiful. So the same way you can, but instead of saying 1:2 like this, you could actually say -3. Here, what we are saying is we are binding data frame 1 to all the columns of data frame 3 except column 3, and pack everything to this variable. That's what we have done here. We run it, and then you come and print this. It's the same thing as what we had here. It will be the same thing there. So if I print this out, you will see that it will add it without the 3rd column, just like the way it added here without this 3rd column, which is on top here. Okay, so these are the various ways through which we can update our data frames. We can also update our rows. So for instance, I have a data frame 3 and I am looking at row 16. Row 16 does not exist. If I come here like this and then I run it, you see that now row 16 does not exist. All right. So what we are simply saying here is that let me pull down this a little bit here. What we are saying is that if I had put here 15, when you run it, it will print row 15 for you. Okay. What is it if we, oh, sorry. if I had put here row 15 and then I run it, you will see that row 15 will be there with P, okay? Because I mistakenly ran this whole line. So what I'll do is I'm going to come here and say oh God. Okay, so what we are going to do is now, but if we put here row 16, 16 does not exist. If you run only this, does not exist. So what do? We create that particular row and then come and make sure that we add the values that will go and occupy that row. But remember that you are dealing with a data frame that has 3 columns. So you have to make sure that when you are adding the object to go and occupy that particular row has column 1, column 2, and then column 3, respectively. Column 3 is character, so you have to also add a character to it. So if I run this, it will go and occupy row 16, which does not exist. We've updated the row like that, and that is it. So now, if I print data frame 3, you will notice that we will now be having 16. You see, this P I mistakenly ran, so it replaced the other one. And that's why we now have this. So we now have 16 rows instead of the one that we were having initially. Now, if you want to bind, or if you want to make sure that you have more than, if you want to add more rows to the other rows, you have to make sure that the data have the same number of columns. The two data sets or the two data frames have the same number of columns. If not, you won't be able to add. So here I am going to create another data frame called data frame 4. But I want to pick the values of data frame 1 and then pack it into data frame 4. But I want to modernize it more. So I am picking from column 2 to 5 of data frame 1, and I'll multiply all of them by 0.5, and I'll pack it to this. So that's all that I'm doing there. So if I do that, I now use cbind to be able to make sure that I add the other column which was left, and then yeah. So if I now print data frame 4, you will see that I also have how many columns? 1, 2, 3, up to 5. But I want this one to be my first column. So what I'll do is I simply will have to change it. The same thing here, but now I'll come and use C and say that I want number 1 to be the first, number 5 to be the first, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. So when you run that, it changes the column positions. And then now when I print data frame 4, you will notice that it has alterated it. So now the characters are now the first column and then in that order. So now it is set. We now have our data frame set. So if I also print data frame 5, then you data frame underscore 1, you see that here how many columns? 5. Here how many columns? 5. And so in this case, we can now bind them. We can bind the two of them. So if the first one is, we can bind the two at the same time. So you use the rbind function to bind data frame 4 to data frame 1. And then we'll pack everything into this variable called my data frame 5. So if I run that, you see that if I print my data frame 5, I'm not going to have 30 rows because I bind two data frames which are having 15 rows. And so I use rbind, so I'm binding the rows. So one will come and join under the other one, and that is it. So you see that all of them have joined together. So this is how we update our data. So let's assume that data frame 4 was your original data. Data frame 1 is a new data that has been brought to you too, and then you need to update your records. And that's what you do. You run it like this. Your records will be updated. And then, but maybe the data that is brought to you, you are not going to add everything, all the rows. So you are just picking the rows. You are looking at data frame 4, and you are selecting the first 5 rows of all the columns, and then you want to add it to data frame 1. So here, this is how you select it. And then I'll add it and then send it to this particular variable. So I just run that. And if I print it, you notice that this time I have not added everything. So it will be 20 because I picked 5 rows, added it to 15. That will give me 20. As you can see, we have 20 here. So this is how we also bind rows and then columns. We can also select here, we are selecting the first 10, 10 to the 15th row, and then adding it to 1 to the 10th row of data frame 1, and we'll pack it to this variable. So when I do that, run it, obviously it runs just well, and that is it. And then the last one is here we are using the negative, the anti way, and what is the anti-row bind. Here what we do is I am going to bind data frame 4, some rows of data frame 4 to some rows of data frame 1. But in this case, I am binding all the rows except row 10 to row 15. And then I am also binding all the rows in data frame 1 except row 1 to row 10. So that's negative. Negative means you take those ones out, they are not part. The rest will go and bind. So when we do that, we run it, and then I'll come and print this out. Then you notice that we have our data frame, what is obviously bind, and it is seated down there. This is how we are able to update our records, and then we are good to go. Here, where do we apply the last one that I just did? Maybe we were having some data that we noted that no, some portions of the data are no longer necessary. So we want to recode the data. So we just pick those points and negate them, and then bind the rest into a new data set. So those ones have taken out. Maybe they were staff, they are on retirement. So we've taken those ones out to update the new records. And this is now our new record here. And so we can work with it. So these are the various ways through which you can update your data frame and then whatsoever. It's quite simple. Now, updating data frame with names. Sometimes you maybe with time, you want to change the column names or you want to change the row names. Okay. So I'm going to use a function called paste. If you run this particular function, paste department, this is going to give you department 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10. So we use that to be able to paste something like paste is just a concatenate function. Just join two variables together. All right. So if I have my data frame 4 here, which we already know, if I do this, is there without anything. You can see that, but maybe I want to change the column names. The first column I want it to be called name, second salary, age, height, and weight. So this is how to change the names. You use this function called call names, put the data frame into it, and then you just create this vector of characters accordingly, because the data frame has 5 columns. So you have to also create 5 names in this order, and then when you run it, it simply goes to occupy the column names, because you are using column name function, and that's what array uses to be able to know what you want to do. Now, when I print it, you see that the columns will now have names. I pull this out, you see that we now have name, salary, age, height, weight. That's how we also update it. We can also update it with row names. You see that the rows are now named 1, 2, 3 up to 15. But we can update the row names by saying row 1 all the way to, that's why we're using this function called paste row function. Then we row name, put the data frame into it, and then use the vector, the combine function to create whatever that you want to go and be the names, the row names. Here, we want to call each row by numbers, like row 1, row 2, row 3 in that order. So how do we do that? We use the paste function, or the paste function, paste 0 function, to be able to do that, following this syntax. That's why I demonstrated it on top here. When you do like this, it will name each department according to the numbers here, 1, 2, 3 up to, and then in that order. If you didn't want it to name this way, you could have used a vector, the same vector like I did first. Okay, so I have here 1, sorry about that, mistakenly press on it, long press. And so this was this, but maybe you didn't want it this way. So I'm just going to copy this and come here, enter, paste. And here, maybe I wanted to name it, maybe the department, not in sequential order. So I'll use C and come and say here, I want it to be department 2, department 5, 6, followed by department 5, followed by 8, followed by 7, followed by 1. Then whichever way you wanted it to be followed by, you can even put 0 there. So when you run it, it's going to print it according to the way you have done it. Yeah, that's how it is. use the paste function. It's just a concatenate function. It combines it. So here, when we come to the row names, I didn't have time to type all of them like here. There were only 5 variables. So, but here there are 15, difficult to type. So I use the paste function to be able to name one, row 2, up to row 15. So when I do that, if I run it, and then I now come to print my data frame 4, you see that I now have the column names and then the row names accordingly. So row 1 up to row 15, this up to this. It's quite simple like that. And then, of course, now when you do that and you now want, I can just print row 8 using the row names. Because the rows they are now having names, it's easy. You see, I can simply just select that. So we could have also done the column names using the paste function. And so if I come here and run it the same scenario, and then I print data frame 1, you can see that I have, that one will be named column 1, column 2, up to column 15. Up to column 5, sorry. So as you can see, they are all here. So this is how we are able to update our records, our data frames, our vectors, and whatsoever. I'll be sending you another video, or I'll be doing another one. I'll record a video of that one about how to update data arrays. I don't want the video to be extremely too long, so I'll leave this one here, and then I will send you the other video before I sleep. And that will be about data arrays, how to update it. It's also quite simple like that. Thank you. All right, so thanks. And then this is how we are able to update all our records. And I hope you've learned something briefly. Thank you, and I'll bring you another video very soon.